Learn to paint with me using watercolors to create a super fun, summery popsicle painting. Seriously, this is the easiest thing to paint with watercolor. I get asked all the time, how should I learn how to paint? And I always recommend starting with watercolor. It's inexpensive, it's easy, all you need is your paint palette, a good paintbrush, and a cup of water. Painting popsicles is an excellent place to start if you're a beginner, and it's really fun to paint if you've been painting your whole life like me. If you love learning about art, click that subscribe button so you never miss one of my weekly art tutorials. Today I am using my Arches watercolor paper cold pressed, and I'll put my materials in the description box. I'm using my Winsor Newton travel watercolor palette. And I'm using 3 different, although I usually just end up using 1, round brushes of a couple different brands. So I'm going to start with my bigger brush, but I end up using the medium-sized one. I love this paint palette because it has a little tray that you can fill with water. It's perfect for painting on the go. And I'm going to start by painting the shape of the popsicle, which is super simple. So I'm using just 1 color. I promise I'm going to keep things so crazy simple today that if you've never painted anything in your life, you can follow along. So think of your paintbrush as a pencil, and you're going to draw the outline where it's curved on top, and then you're going to put 2 lines in the center. When using watercolor, leaving your paper white is really important. I'm putting a straight line down at the bottom, and then I'm going to use water to round out my edges. I'm trying to go slow because leaving your paper white is going to create highlights that will make your popsicle look super shiny and realistic. So although I am keeping things simple today, you want your popsicle to look real. Depending on how pink or how dark you want your popsicle to be, you're going to find a balance between adding water and adding paint. So I want a really luscious kind of red, cherry, or watermelon popsicle. So I'm going back and I'm darkening the lines so they look like they're going back into space. If you don't have a popsicle in your freezer, I suggest Googling popsicle, and you'll have tons of easy images to look at. I am using a wet on wet technique, and all that means is I'm applying wet paint directly on wet paint and not waiting for it to dry. So I love to layer watercolor, and you can check out some of my other tutorials that show you how to really spend your time layering watercolor just like it would be acrylic or oil paint. But today my focus is keeping things simple. I'm using my brown to create the popsicle stick, and because this is wet on wet, I'm leaving a small gap so that the red paint doesn't flow into the brown, which if it did, that would be okay because popsicles drip and create a mess all the time that would look fun and realistic. I do want it a little bit darker on the side, and I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow using this blue, and I'm just going to mix it very slightly in my paint tray over here to give it just this kind of gray, and that's all the shading I'm going to do. Okay, so I don't want to focus on anything other than shape, color, and just a little bit of value. So areas of light and dark, mainly focusing on my highlights. Done. Super simple. The second popsicle I am going to show you how to do, I'm going to level up just a little bit by blending more than 1 color. So instead of keeping it just 1 color, I'm actually going to blend wet on wet 3 different colors starting with yellow. The shape is the same, round at the top with a flat edge at the bottom, and leaving areas white is going to be super important. Remember, if you want something lighter, add more water, and if you want something darker, add more paint. I'm adding my 2 lines down the center and then curving them around. Your popsicle doesn't have to have these 2 lines, but I think it gives it just the right amount of detail, and I really love those white highlights. Now I'm going to add some orange to the center, and for it to flow, you want to balance out how much paint you add and how much water you add. It is up to you if you want your popsicle more orange or more yellow, but I'm going for an effect where it's lighter on the top, it blends down to orange, and at the very bottom, I think I'll try adding a 3rd color if I like how my color is blending. All right, let's get that pink in there so I have a dark bottom. And if you're doing this, think of colors or flavors that would go really well together. I am really happy with this color scheme. So challenge yourself to blend color if you want to, but also notice that red popsicle off to the side looks just as realistic. So it is up to you how much detail you want to add to your popsicles. I am darkening that inside edge, and if you're looking at an image of a popsicle, it does get really dark on the inside. Leaving those white highlights will also give it that pop of contrast that is really important for a watercolor painting. I'm still playing around with blending color directly on the painting, trying to keep it this ombre effect of light to dark or yellow to orange to red. Knowing when to stop is always my problem, so I'm going to stop here, and I'm adding this time with my yellow ochre my popsicle stick. I'm going to add a little bit of that brown in there, but I felt like it looked or matched a little bit too much the color of the popsicle, so I went with the more yellow color for this one. You'll notice I didn't leave a gap, and watch what happens. That red spills down in there, which again is totally fine. If you have a popsicle in your hand, I know you've had the experience of it dripping down your hand. You can pull any unwanted paint away with a paper towel, and you could leave it just like that, or you could go back and add whichever color you find the most appealing for your popsicle stick. You can leave it just like this, but I'm gonna go back with that blue-brown I mixed in the top of my palette and add just a little bit of a shadow to the right-hand side so it matches. My third popsicle is a rocket pop, and this is a slightly different shape. It has kind of like a point at the top, and it's a little bit more challenging to blend because you are using white. So I'll show you how to do white in the center. Starting with that same red I've used 3 times now, I'm adding 4 lines that go from outside and 2 on the inside up to the top. So if you want to do a rocket popsicle, you might want to Google image what it looks like because it's a little bit skinnier and the shape of it has a slightly different organization. So it's red, white, and blue, and I thought that was perfect for summer. So white is in the middle and blue is down at the bottom. Notice the different shapes. So if you're not up for doing a rocket popsicle and you want to keep things simple, don't worry. This is just an extra added challenge if you're interested in creating a popsicle that's slightly different. With the tiniest amount of water on my brush, I'm blending that red down to the blue, and it creates a really gorgeous violet neutral shadow. I don't want to overwork this, so I'm going to leave it just like that. The popsicle stick down at the bottom, I'm using the same technique, and this time I'll try to leave a gap so that it's not bleeding and it's just that nice color and a kind of separate shape from the popsicle itself. All done, looking summery and delicious. So let's speed things up. I'm going to repeat the same techniques that I've already shown you, and I want to fill my page with really fun popsicles using different color combinations. I just did 2 fudgesicles, and you can see how simple it is. Same technique as I did with the first popsicle, but with a little bit more rounded edges. I have a Neapolitan popsicle, I have some green popsicles, and try going off your page to create a really awesome work of art that you can elevate by putting in a frame. Thank you so much for watching and sticking around, and check out these other watercolor tutorials. Watercolor is truly my favorite thing, and it's such an easy way to learn how to paint.